right. So after completing the types of nonverbal communication, now it's time we move ahead to the barriers of communication. In this chapter, in this slide, we will be discussing about what are the barriers to communication and how do you overcome the barriers. So let us move ahead. This is the name of the chapter, Barriers to Communication and Overcoming Them. Now we are just first talking about the some general roadblocks, in the organization. So something which is always hampering, which always hamper the successful communication. So where the problem arises. The first thing is the organization structure. Mostly in the big organization, what happens is like there are a number of hierarchies in the organization. So the organization structure is not flat, but it is rather vertical. So if there is like a big organization, big like there's a vertical organization structure wherein the top management is giving information to, let's say, the managerial level employees. They are giving to the executive level, will give to the managerial level employees. Then from the manager it goes to the junior manager, from there it goes to the supervisor, from there it goes to the employees. So the message will pass through different stages, through different phases, through different parties, and it will reach to the concerned person. So sometimes what happens is that because of that, the message sometimes is lost, sometimes miscommunication arises. So this is one reason where there is a problem in the communication. Like, let's say that the channel is fine from the top to bottom, the channel is going great, but sometimes the messages does not reach to the top management, which starts from the bottom. Like, let's say that an employee is dissatisfied with something, and employee wish to talk to the top management. So the message will be passed in the form of feedback about the problems which they are facing. Now from an employee it will go to a junior level employee, it will go to a senior level person, from there it will go to a subordinate, from there it will go to a senior supervisor, from there it will go to the manager, from there it will go to senior manager, from there it will go to another executive level person, then to the director. So there are not even there are chances that message will never reach to the director about the problems. Like, somebody will try and of course resolve at the bottom level, but there are some concerns which should be communicated or which should be shared to the top management. But because there is no option, an employee will never be able to go and meet to the director directly, is not allowed. So that's why this is considered as one of the roadblock, organization structure. But in fact, nowadays, organizations prefer flat structures. Like, instead of hierarchy, they believe that there should be like more of the horizontal setup, horizontal level, wherein everybody is free to communicate to each other, meet each other, and whatever concerns are there, whatever problems are there, or the feedback which has to be shared, it is openly shared. So the flat structures is what is preferred these days in the organization. So that's how we can overcome the first roadblock, which is there in the organization. The second one is difference in the status. So like, people who belongs to, I mean, the same thing, same. This is also part of organization structure, that if you are a junior level employee, you might not be able to go and communicate directly to the executive level person, same, because of the difference in the status that you are having. So for that, again, what should be there is like an open communication should be happening from the top management, wherein you at least communicate directly with the employees, talk to them once in a while, make them feel that, yeah, we are also there to listen whenever you need, and you can just visit us anytime, take an appointment and just visit. So you can just try and overcome this kind of problem. Another roadblock is lack of trust. Very common thing, same way. Like, let's say that an employee is dissatisfied with couple of things, maybe with the project or assignment which they are working on, or maybe with the way they are working on, or maybe dissatisfied with the salary, but you are not able to share with the concerned person because you don't trust them. You feel that if I will share about my problem, then management might take it otherwise, and I might lose my job. So I'll start feeling insecure. So lack of trust could be one common way in which people will not talk, not communicate openly. So it's a loss. Sometimes some important information might be missed because of lack of trust, right? Let's say that one employee might have heard that others are planning to go on strike because they are not satisfied with the working condition, or they are not satisfied with the salary which they are getting. But the person is not able to communicate the same to the manager because of lack of trust, that somebody will take his or her name and again will lose the job or lose the credibility in his or her own group. So lack of trust is one common roadblock in the organization. Then closed communication climate. Closed communication climate means nobody is talking to each other, rather nobody is allowed to talk to each other. Again, you're not comfortable talking to your colleagues or your seniors for whatever reason, because the climate is such that you're not allowed. Rather than that, these days people prefer open door policy, right? That everybody should be free to talk to each other. Whatever your problems are, whatever your demands are, whatever you need should be very clearly communicated and should be overcome. The next one is incorrect choice of medium. Could be one, again, another important roadblock in the organization. Now, let's say that you want to pass on a message to all the employees, and what you are doing is you are you are sharing the information through email. Now, for very junior level employees, who doesn't have access to email, so many of them doesn't have access to emails, or who are not using emails regularly, if you use that medium as a channel to share the information, then message will not be passed. So for people who are just relying on the notice boards, because they see the notice board, very junior level workers, they will not check their emails, but rather they will see the message on the notice board, which should be written in a very clear and very simple language. So if you are not choosing the right medium, for the purpose of communication, then it is considered as a roadblock, because message will not be passed on in the right way. So this is about incorrect choice of medium. The next one is information overload. Yeah, we're talking about information overload. Sometimes, too much of information acts as a barrier to the communication, because people get confused, right? You want to give message, you want to, you're teaching some, there's a new joinee, and you are sharing some information which is important, but you are sharing so many information, so many messages at the same time, that person will get confused. So that is acting as a roadblock. Rather than that, maybe you can give things in written, maybe you can give them a rule book, or maybe you can share some information today, some information tomorrow, and allow them some time, to at least understand and act upon it. So information overload is considered as a roadblock. Like, too much of information will always confuse a person. That shouldn't happen. Next one is message complexity. Complex messages also confuse people. Now, somebody who's joined your organization, right, might not be able to understand your way of working. So, if you just tell them that this is the portal and this is where the information is and this is how you're supposed to upload and this is how you're supposed to download, person will get confused, because they don't have experience using your portal, right? So any kind of message which is complex, there are chances that miscommunication will happen, or the message will be unclear, understanding of the message will be unclear. So these could be a problem. Next one is message competition. Competition in the message. So what do we mean by it? Means that there are so many messages that you want to convey, but which message will you share first? Like, you need to understand the priority, you need to understand the capacity of a person, that these people, the workers, for example, if you're sharing some messages, they don't have capacity to digest or understand everything. So you need to give them some pause, some break, to understand those messages. So when all the messages are competing, you don't know which one to share first, then there are chances that you miss out on the important information which should have been passed. Next one is unethical communication. Unethical communication is considered as a roadblock. Right? You're just threatening somebody, or you are just lying, or you are cheating. You are telling your customer that this is the best product, and these are the benefits that you will be getting out after using that product. But it is a very sensitive product. You are just cheating the customer. So that is called unethical communication. Whatever the features of the products are, you should be sharing the features clearly to the customers. You should be honest about certain things. I mean, of course you want to sell your products, and you will be of course convincing your clients, by sharing the best things about the product. But you cannot cheat them. Like, it shouldn't be unethical, right? You cannot lie to your own employees about, let's say, the position of the company, or let's say about the profitability, or about the production, or about the financial condition of the company. All these things are considered as unethical communication. If you want to go long way, you should just try and avoid that. And last one is physical distraction. So any kind of physical distraction within the organization, right? Let's say that like simple basic facilities are not offered to the employees. Let's say there is no light, there is no electricity, right? Or there is no ventilation in the room. Right, all these things are considered as physical distraction. Your person is not comfortable working, and that's why your work is getting disturbed. So again, lack of lack of basic facilities, you're not giving them basic facilities, also considered as a roadblock. So these are the general roadblocks in the organization. Now we are going to quickly talk about the communication roadblocks as per the process. So I hope you remember the process of communication, right? If you remember, it starts from the sender. There is a message, then it is encoded, right? Then there is a choice of medium or channel, then message is decoded, and then finally receiver receives the message, and then this receiver will send the feedback. And also everything happens in like one context. So this is how the process of communication goes. But like, we are talking about barriers. When we're talking about barriers can be at each stage of the process of communication. So that's what we will quickly see. First thing, barriers at the sending stage. So what happens at the sending stage? For example, there's some points are given over here. Amount of information sender has. So it completely depends upon the sender. For example, sender is sending like a lot of information. Amount of information is more, then it is a barrier. Or too much knowledge about the subject. Sender has too much knowledge, and sender is just passing on the message, thinking that receiver is also knowing. So then it is considered as a barrier, because you are using the words and sharing the information which is very technical in nature, but your receiver might not understand the same thing. So that is too much knowledge about the subject is also considered as a barrier. The next one is indecision regarding the selection of information. So whatever messages you want to share, you don't know what select. Let's send some selective information. Like, I might be having like 100 things on my mind, but I cannot communicate and share everything, right? I have to be selective about what information I share, because too much information again will confuse somebody. So that's why, if I'm not able to decide what should I share, right thing at the right time, then that will confuse somebody. Then order of presentation. I mean, see, if I'm sharing about something, first I should be clearing the background should be clear, that this is what I'm talking about, this is what we are supposed to act, and this is how it's going to be useful, this is how we can do it. So if you present it in the right order, other person will easily understand it. But if you just tell them the climax key, yeah, uh, this is what is expected, then person might get confused. So that is important. Then lack of familiarity with the audience. Also, you need to understand what is the capability of the audience. Being a sender, you should convey the information in a way your audience or the receiver is going to understand, right? If your receiver is an uneducated person and you're selecting the best mediums, very technical information you are passing, the person is not able to understand. So then you need to understand how your audience, uh, know about your audience, like know their experience, know their knowledge, know their capabilities, know their understanding level, um, and depends what context and what message, but you should be familiar with your audience before sending a message. Lack of empathy, right? It is also important. You being a sender, you should always empathize, um, understand the situation of the receiver, and then you share the message. If you don't empathize, then without emotion, it is just like a formality. You're just sending a message and person has received it. And lack of experience in speaking or writing. So if you don't have experience as a sender in speaking, like if you're not a good speaker, anyway your audience or the receiver will be confused. Or if you're sharing the message through written communication, if you don't know the language only, or if your handwriting are, let's say, very bad, the receiver will never be able to understand and act upon it, right? So these are the barriers which are happening at the sending stage. Have a look one more time. Okay, let's move to the next one. Now, barriers at the channel stage. Read it once. All right. So barriers at the channel stage. Now at channel, what happens is, see, if there are 3 or 4 different people who are transmitting the message, right? Message is passing on from one person to another person to another person, like a grapevine, then that will be considered as a barrier, because message will be lost or distorted somewhere. Then unclear or conflicting message. If at the channel stage, if your message is only not clear, right, then it is a problem. Whatever channel you choose, message will not be reaching successfully. Or choice of wrong channel. Now, let's say that it was better that an important message should have been put on the notice board or shared through an email, because a person will be able to reread it and act on it. But you're just sharing those steps orally. then people are tend to forget the message. Then what has happened, if you're choosing a wrong channel, some important messages, might be like written communication is preferred for certain messages, so that people can use it as a record or refer again and act on it. But if you choose a wrong channel, then it is itself a problem. And noise in the channel, right? Let's say that you're trying to use verbal communication, right? You just want to verbally tell somebody, but there's a lot of disturbance here and there, then person will not be able to listen to the message. So these are the barriers at the channel stage. Now talking about the barriers at the receiving stage. So first thing, what is, just look at this picture, it is so funny. Like a person, sometimes you feel that this person, is he even listening? And the other person will always feel that sender is just saying whatever, right? So mental filter is something which is very important. Like let's say you as a sender, you are sharing a message to your client, to the audience, but or to a person, but the receiver, is not even listening. Like receiver is somewhere else, lost in his or her own mental thoughts. So then it is considered as a barrier. So mental filters, you cannot control it. A person should be focused, for a proper communication, but otherwise it is considered as a barrier. Then inattentiveness or disinterest. If a person, if the receiver is not attentive, or receiver is not interested only in that topic, then what will you do? How will you convince other person to listen? So then it is considered as a barrier. You're not attentive or you're disinterested. Next one, ineffective listening, right? Your listening is not effective, you are not effectively listening, you don't care, so then it is a barrier. Next one is lack of time. Suppose you are conveying your message and a person, receiver, doesn't have a time to listen, then also it is a barrier. And stress or anxiety can also be a communication roadblock from the receiver point of view. Person is already stressful or going through some anxiety, then it is considered as a barrier. Just an example, just go through it. Okay. Barriers at the feedback stage. These are the communication roadblocks. Barriers at the feedback stage. So, at the feedback stage, if somebody is not giving you feedback at all, so lack of feedback is considered as a barrier. Then insufficient or improper feedback. Now somebody is not giving you proper feedback, somebody is randomly giving you a hint but not clearly sharing where the problem is, or what he or she did not understand. So then insufficient or improper feedback is considered as a barrier. And then misleading feedback, something which is misleading, right? Somebody is not telling you in a right way, so you're just confused, you don't know what is happening and what was the right thing to do. So that is considered as a misleading feedback. So these are the communication at the feedback stage. Now talking about overcoming the communication barrier, how do you overcome all these barriers? So let's see, the first thing is, what you do is plan and clarify your ideas and opinion. Like this is from the sender point of view, right? How do you overcome? So you should always clarify and plan what are your ideas and opinions that you want to share. You should know your audience. You should prefer positive attitude. You should call attention and motivate the listener to listen to you. You should use feedback process, and you should develop trust and confidence also among your audience, so that they will be listening to you. So this is what you can do. Another thing you can do is explain the importance of the message. Tell somebody why it is important to pay attention, why this message is so much important. Or you can direct it to a purpose, direct it to a purpose, that why that this has this kind of goal, how it will help you, so then people will automatically listen to you. And then time your message carefully. If you want to share an information, and if you, sometimes it happens that when we are talking we get diverted and we start talking on another topic and another topic, so the main message is missed out. But you go on talking, and your audience will get really bored. because you're not sticking to the topic of interest. So then you should time your message. Whatever information has to be shared should be shared in a particular way, in a particular time, so that others also don't get bored and people pay attention. Otherwise, attention span is always very little for anybody. So if you just keep on dragging the message and don't keep it concise, then and simple, then what happens is people will not pay attention. Okay, how to overcome the semantic barriers, which semantic barriers are the ones which is related to the words. So use simple and precise language. You should use very simple language. If people vocab is not so sound, then, and if you're using like a very complicated language, people will not be able to understand and act on it because they don't know those words. So keep it simple. Use a suitable language, language which can be understood by your audience. Avoid ambiguous words. Try and avoid some words which are really confusing, which has double meaning, and people will really get confused. So try and avoid that. Now, how to overcome the organizational barriers. So make it a two-way process. Organizational communication becomes very successful when it is two-way. You're sharing a message and person is able to give you the feedback or question or share the concerns. So make it a two-way process, that makes the communication successful. Establish feedback system. You should always have a feedback system in the organization in any form. If you are open, let them come and talk to you, let your employees come and talk to you. Or there should be a suggestion box in which people should be free to write their suggestion. Or even online portals should be such that people, you don't you're positive towards the suggestions which are coming and you accept the suggestion. So you should create some kind of feedback system in the organization, um, for overcoming organizational barriers. Then you should provide information to the concerned person, right? Try and provide information to the concerned person and avoid unnecessary information. A lot of information which are not really important should be avoided, like, so only share information which is necessary. So that's how you can overcome organizational barriers. Take a minute and please go through this slide. Okay, moving ahead. How to overcome the physical barriers. So if you want to overcome the physical barriers, first thing you do is make suitable seating arrangements. Right? Physical barriers, as I said, anything related to the working condition, and how the environment is. So seating arrangement should be suitable. Sometimes your audience, they are not able to pay attention because that chair on which they are sitting, or the bench on which they are sitting is not comfortable. So they are constantly, not if since they are not comfortable, their back is hurting or whatever, so people are not able to pay attention. So make sure that your seating arrangement is fine, they are comfortable. Next one is ensure audibility and visibility. Ensure that at least people are able to listen to you. Like, this is a physical barrier. Now if you are addressing large audience and if there is no mic, then what will happen is your voice might not reach to the end. So people will not start, they will not be able to pay attention. So even visibility should be clear, even audibility should be there, right? If it is a large group of audience, again, maybe you can just take a walk and try and go close to them so that you can maintain eye contact with them, they can maintain eye contact with you, and they can at least see your gestures and they can see your facial expression and understand it better, right? So ensure that you are clearly audible and visible. and provide environmental comfort, right? As I said, that light is not there, electricity is not there, fan is not working, AC is not working. So whatever is needed in the moment, wherever you are in, if you're in a meeting, or if you are in a factory, or wherever you are, ensure that you are providing the environmental comfort to the audience. So this is how you can overcome the physical barriers. Okay, effectiveness in managerial communication. I think we already discussed this thing. Some tips we saw, but I'll just take you quickly through this. In order to have effective managerial communication, you should always select appropriate communication style. Your communication style, the way you communicate with people, should be appropriate, right? Depending upon who you are talking to, if you're talking to lower level employees, your communication style should be different. If you're talking to senior level people, it should be different. So select appropriate communication style. Always have audience centered approach. You should always tell audience why it is important for them to listen, then they will listen to you. So your communication, managerial communication, will be successful if it is audience centered. If you tell them that I want this and I want this, but if you then they will not, they will be feeling forceful. But rather than that, you say that we should do it because it's good for our organization, then people will be more involved and committed. Then understanding intercultural communication, always, because you will be having the employees from belonging to different cultures, understand intercultural communication, respect that part also, so people will be more involved in understanding. Commitment to ethical communication, try and be as much ethical as possible. Don't share unnecessarily wrong messages, don't abuse, or don't lie, don't cheat. So if you are communicating, if you are committing, let's say that somebody is going to get like 10% or whatever, 5% increment in the salary, then don't lie, because they will be expecting. Now if you don't give them, they'll be really disappointed. Or if you're just talking to your clients, be honest about the features of the product and how it is beneficial. If anything which is harmful, you should be clearly telling them that please be careful, it is up to you to purchase, but be careful. So that's how you should be committed to the ethical communication. Then proficiency in communication technology, you should be proficient in whatever technology you are using in order to communicate. If you don't know how to use let's say computer, and you are still trying to use computer, the internet as a medium of communication, then you will not be able to successfully do it. So whatever communication technology are, you should be proficient in using that, right? Next one is control over the flow of communication. So the flow of communication should be clear. Not that you are. That's what we discussed. That it should not be information overload. You should know what messages when, which messages to be prioritized, when to share, how much to share, and reduce the number of messages. So unnecessary communication, unnecessary messages should be avoided. So there is no confusion. Try and keep the communication clear. Messages should be crisp, concise. That's the right way of doing it. It should be short and it should be simple. So that is how you try and reduce the number of messages that you are sharing with your audience. Okay, next one, communication in crisis. Please have a look, then we can discuss. All right, we are talking about communication in crisis. Now, what is that? So, crisis communication is a strategic approach to corresponding with people and organizations during a disruptive event. When a crisis occurs, proactive, quick, detailed communication is critical. A crisis communication strategy, plan, and tools can ensure such communication happens. So, whenever you are trying to communicate in a crisis situation, then it is what communication in crisis. What is the need for crisis communication? See, every business should have a communication plan that documents the protocol for distributing information in a time of intense difficulty or danger. Because a business's reputation is at stake in those situations, it's important to impart information to the public and other stakeholders to ease concerns and counteract rumors or false information. So, first thing, um, every organization should be prepared to communicate in a time of crisis. Now, how do we do it? So, how is crisis communication done well? See, good crisis communication requires a comprehensive crisis communication plan. The plan should specify who will communicate the message and what communication channels will be used to deliver it. Sometimes in the crisis situation, for example, there's a sudden outburst of fire in the department, and then who is responsible in that kind of situation, right? Who is going to use the extinguishers, and who is going to seek help, ask, inform what is the first common point of contact in that kind of situation. So all these things should be planned well in it, that in any kind of emergencies, this person should be contacted. Communicators must be ready to answer questions from a variety of groups, including employees, customers, and the media. Management should be kept informed about the questions being asked and the nature of the social media post about the crisis. So, you need to be open about what discussions are going on, what media is asking, because everything is going to affect the reputation and image of the company. So, you need to be careful. Engaging an outside public relations firm can help a crisis hit business interact with the media. However, if the organization resolves the crisis quickly enough, taking that step might not be necessary. Important tools and resources for crisis communication. So, when a disruptive event occurs, it's useful to have a variety of tools and resources that can help with crisis communication and mitigation. For example, what should be clear? Communication systems or devices such as phones and fax machines should be handy. Now, these days, no longer fax machines are used, but anyway, your phone should be handy. The numbers, emergency numbers should be handy. Copies of the emergency response, business continuity, and crisis communication plan should be ready. Active social media accounts to post crisis updates. Your social media should be very much active so that whatever updates are there, you keep sharing, communicating. Then site and building diagrams to facilitate quick evacuations. So building diagrams to facilitate quick evacuation should be there in case of emergencies. Forms for documenting events for later analysis and investigation. So who will be doing that? And message boards to share updates with the employees. People the information can come from the top management about any emergency that has happened, any situation which is not normal, and then it should come from the top management. Now, for example, see, you know about the attack on Taj, right, in Bombay. So when that happened, right, how did the Tata Group chairman Ratan Tata came forward, and how did he offer help to the employees, families, and how he was communicating and motivating the employees is all commendable. So that's what should be very clear, that in case of emergencies, somebody is going to take the lead and give some kind of comforting messages or comforting elements to the people who are suffering. So that's what is expected during the crisis situation. And webmaster tools or personal to make quick website updates. So you should also have people, mostly you always have people who are technically sound, so they always share the information on the social media platforms and the website and other pages. So okay, this is how crisis situation could be handled. Okay, so with this we are just finishing our module number 1, and we will be moving on to other module.